Did you know that Rudyard Kipling used the word Grinch over 60 years before Dr. Seuss did? Or that Booker T. Washington was the first African American featured on a postage stamp? Or that Davy Crockett was born in a state that technically no longer exists? Well, in this video, we're going to go over some of the authors from the RC book list. We're going to continue the series and talk about some of these amazing books. So let's get started. Hi there, my name is Karen. Welcome back. If you're new here, welcome. I like to help families like yourselves achieve sustainable and enjoyable homeschooling. And I know for myself and countless other families, that revolves around the Robinson curriculum. And they're actually sponsoring and bringing you this video today. So I'm incredibly grateful for them to do that. And I love the Robinson curriculum. I've been talking about them for years here on our house. I truly believe this minimal but effective self-teaching methodology is the key to having a very pleasant homeschooling journey, very pleasant environment. Now, the Robinson curriculum is maybe also unique in that it focuses on reading, writing, and arithmetic. Yes, they do science, but that's after they learn the mathematics that they need. However, through that book list, through that hour of reading, they're learning about science and social studies and history. It's an amazing list that uses the best that is out there, the classics, great vocabulary, great morals, some of the best literature we have in our American history. And it starts all the way from the McGuffey Primer, all the way until Shakespeare, Paradise Lost and Regained. And it's just continual. There's no grade level. So they just go at their own speed, continually going down this list. That is this series. We're going through that core order list. There's also an additional supplemental list if your kids are reading really fast. Like I said, there's no grade level. So in order for them not to maybe get into too challenging books too early, there's that additional reading list as well. But we're going to stick with just the core order for this list. Like I said, I think it's really enjoyable. Kids, instead of working out of workbooks that maybe are kind of done for them, they're just filling it in, or reading about history in a dry sort of textbook, they're reading living books, accounts from people that actually were there, that lived it, and other amazing classics. So that's what this series is about, and we're going through the list. This video, we're going through the books 56 to 60. So I'm going to share a little bit about the book, what it's about. This, I think, can be really helpful for parents if they don't have time to skim or read or research. I'm here to give you the highlights, what it's about, maybe any controversies you need to look out for, and you make your own decision, because of course, everything seems to be controversial today. So we'll go over that in this video. I hope you find it helpful. And keep in mind that there are several books of the same author on the list. So I won't go over the whole history of the author again. I'll refer you to that video where I first introduced them. That way we can focus more on the new authors introduced. And I'm sorry, I want to apologize because I still am just getting over this cold. So I'm sorry for the way my voice sounds, but we're going to keep going, keep moving forward. All right, number 56 is Facing the World by Horatio Alger Jr. And this category on the RC book list is under literature and social studies. All of Alger's juvenile novels essentially share the same theme known as the Horatio Alger myth. And that's basically where a teenage boy works hard to escape poverty. But often it's not the hard work that rescues the boy from his fate, but rather some extraordinary act of bravery or honesty. So for example, this book, Facing the World, number 56, is a collection of adventures, narratives, and stories about a boy who flees away from his cruel guardian and is fortunate enough to find a loyal friend. And together they journey all over the country and experience fascinating and thrilling escapades. Now, number 57 is the book Davy Crockett Scout, and this is by Charles Fletcher Allen, and this is in the category of American history. Now, remember I said in the beginning of the video that he was born in a state that technically no longer exists. That's because he was born in what is now known as Eastern Tennessee. However, at the time, many of the region's residents considered themselves citizens of the so-called state of Franklin. They were trying to make their own Franklin state happen, a breakaway territory that had declared its independence from North Carolina 2 years earlier. So supporters of the movement, including Crockett's father, John, pushed for Franklin to be entered into the Union as the 14th U.S. state, but the territory fell just shy of the required vote total in Congress. So, following a stint as an independent republic, Franklin was eventually reclaimed by North Carolina in 1789. By 1796, its lands had become part of the newly formed state, Tennessee. So the book is obviously about his exciting life. He's celebrated as a 19th century American folk hero, frontiersman, soldier, politician, usually referred to as Davy Crockett, and by the popular title, the King of the Wild Frontier. He represented Tennessee in the U.S. House of Representatives, served in the Texas Revolution, and died, sadly, at the age of 49 at the Battle of the Alamo. Now, throughout the video, I'll just throw in my little 2 cents here for what it's worth as far as buying the book or printing it, or because there are some places that I like that have really great reprints. Some books I can't find a good reprint on, but as always, keep in mind you can always print the books from the Robinson curriculum online, their website if you have RC online access, or from the CDs. So when you purchase the Robinson curriculum, you get all the book files, all of them, and you could just print out the books as they go. The easiest way is just duplex, just print it full size, maybe front and back, put it in a binder, you're good to go. It's a nice big size. But I have a playlist as well where I show you all kinds of bookbinding methods. Some with the stapler, some with the 2-hole prongs, a booklet format. So there's different styles. I'll leave that playlist also linked. This particular book, the Davy Crockett book, I have never found a good reprint for it. So just keep in mind, this one I always print. So just throwing that out there. This next one, however, 58, Up From Slavery by Booker T. Washington. I have found a really beautiful reprint. This is by New West Press. A lot of the reprints that you see from my RC book list on my shelves that have the white spine, they all come from New West Press. So this is a beautiful, I believe with them you can get a paperback or a hardback, but it's really well done. It looks like this. So yeah, let's talk about now one of our favorite books from the book list, number 58, Up From Slavery by Booker T. Washington. This is under the category Social Studies and American History. Up From Slavery is a 1901 autobiography of American educator Booker T. Washington. He lived from 1856 to 1915. The book describes his experience of working to rise up from being enslaved as a child during the Civil War, the obstacles he overcame to get an education at the new Hampton Institute, and his work establishing vocational schools like the Tuskegee Institute in Alabama to help Black people and other persecuted people of color learn useful, marketable skills and work to pull themselves as a race up by the bootstraps. He reflects on the generosity of teachers and philanthropists who helped educate Black and Native Americans. He describes his efforts to instill manners, breeding, health, and dignity into students. His educational philosophy stresses combining academic subjects with learning a trade. The book is, in essence, Washington's traditional, non-confrontational message supported by the example in his life. So it really focuses on education, what it means to be your own person, industriousness, humility, the people's capacity for change, which I think was the most powerful aspect of it all, and poverty among the Black population. Now, while more contemporary ideas of Black civil rights call for a more provocative approach, he really strived to be this sort of accommodationist and calculating realist, seeking to carve out a viable strategy. This book, Up From Slavery, was a bestseller and remained the most popular African American autobiography until that of Malcolm X. In 1998, the Modern Library listed the book at number 3 on its list of the 100 best nonfiction books of the 20th century. It's also in the Intercollegiate Review as one of the 50 best books of the 20th century. So this is a book I think everybody should read. It is fantastic. It's one that really makes an impression on you. I know it did for my girls who already read it. It really stood out to them on this book list. And I also have another recommendation to share with you if you enjoy the book or if you'd like to kind of get more expounded on the book. There's a pastor in California who did a fantastic series on the book From Slavery. So I will go ahead and try to find either the first video or the playlist for that sermon series on this book. It's really fantastic. I encourage you to hear it with the whole family. So that is number 58, Up From Slavery by Booker T. Washington, a must read for anybody. All right, moving on, number 59 is Captain Courageous. This is by Rudyard Kipling. This is in the category of literature, and this is another reprint from New West Press. It's really lovely. You can find, this is one of those titles where you could find a lot of reprints on Amazon, but it's always hit or miss with those reprints, seriously. But this one is really well done. The illustrations are nice. Now, this is a repeat author. We've already talked about some of his other books like The Jungle Stories or Just So Stories. So I will leave a link to the video where I first introduced him and went into his history more. So just talking about the book, Captain Courageous is an 1897 novel, of course, by Rudyard Kipling, that follows the adventures of 15-year-old Harvey Shen Jr., the spoiled son of a railroad tycoon, after he is saved from drowning by a Portuguese fisherman in the North Atlantic. The novel originally appeared as a serialization in McClure's, beginning with the November 1896 edition, with the last installment appearing in May 1897. In the year 1900, Teddy Roosevelt extolled the book in his essay, What We Can Expect of the American Boy, and he was praising Kipling for describing in the liveliest way just what a boy should be and do. And just to throw this in there, remember I said at the beginning of the video, he was the first one to use the word Grinch, way before Dr. Seuss. He wrote it in 1892. It's in his poetry collection called the Barrack Room Ballads. And there's a line in there that says, it's woe to bend the stubborn back above the grinching quern. It's woe to hear the leg bar clack and jingle when I turn. So there you go. That was more than 60 years before Dr. Seuss picked it up. All right, and the last video that we're going to cover in this video here is number 60, Told by Uncle Remus. This is by Joel Chandler Harris. This is in the categories of literature and social studies. Now, I've already introduced one of his earlier books. I believe the first one was Uncle Remus, His Songs and His Sayings, because there's several. There's that one, Nights with Uncle Remus and His Friends, and it goes on and on. This book here actually has all of the tales. So I already went into the back history in detail when I first introduced him in this book list. I'll leave that video as well as a little clip on the controversy, right, surrounding Uncle Remus, because Joel Chandler Harris was a white man and he was in the plantations and he heard these stories and he documented them. And so, of course, today, like I said, we expect people to think the way we do now back then, and so there's incongruency there, and that can create some controversy, right? And we'll talk about it a little bit in this video. So Uncle Remus is a collection of animal stories, songs, and oral folklore collected from Southern Black Americans. Many of the stories are didactic, much like those of Aesop's fables and Jean de La Fontaine's stories. Uncle Remus is a kindly old freed man who serves as a storytelling device, passing on the folk tales to children gathered around him like the traditional African griot. Now, the stories are written in an I dialect devised by Harris to represent a deep South Black dialect. This is probably the most challenging aspect, I think, when I talk to other parents about reading this, or kids reading this who are maybe not from the South or Appalachian Mountains. They're not used to this kind of dialect. To read it themselves without having any context of hearing it before can be a little bit difficult. A lot of parents, I think, choose to play this as an audiobook. I mean, I'll try to read some of it here. I up and told old Judge Brower, says Brer Rabbit, see that the next time I run cross you, I wouldn't take and measure you. And goodness knows I'm mighty glad I struck up with you, 'cause now there won't be no more. So I don't know. I think it's kind of fun. I like it. So that's the style that all these stories are written in. And again, it could be a little difficult, especially if you didn't grow up in the South hearing it like that. Audiobooks can be great for that. Now, like I said, I will leave 2 links where I talk more about this book series and the author. But I do want to say, it seems to me the majority of comments on my clips and when I looked at the Amazon reviews for these books are overwhelmingly positive. Yes, there is some criticism, there's some controversy, there's some things certain people didn't like about maybe, I think it had more to do with the direction that Disney took it in or that they picked it up. But I think for the most part, everybody is supportive and glad that they were documented, that they were put in print, that they were published, and so they could be handed down that way today. Because back then, they had these storytellers and that's how things were passed down. We're kind of losing that today, so it's nice that at least it's in print and it can be still shared today. But I wanted to read you and end the video here on one review that I really liked on Amazon because I felt like they did such a great job of just kind of summing it all up, all the feels of everybody today. And the title is A Story for Kids of All Ages and Cultures. So here's the review. Here we go. Is this book suitable for the ears of young children? Will some of the words be offensive? Because yes, if you haven't watched those earlier videos, they do have the N word, okay? Is the lifestyle portrayed improper for the innocent ears of our young ones? In today's time and culture, probably so. But in the mind and hearts of our young children, the stories of Uncle Remus are enthralling as well as entertaining, and they stretch the imagination of our young ones. This is a classic. It should be shared with all. And even more importantly, it should be read. A different time and a different place, yes. But wonderfully entertaining stories that will send your kids into a world filled with imagination, love, and tenderness. Not to mention good humor. Read it first for yourself, you be the judge. And if you find it hard to read to your young ones, then simply tell the story in your own words. I think that's great advice. It is equally entertaining and there is no racism implied. And if you find something objectionable, leave it out. You send your kids to Disney? Well, you can do the same with Uncle Remus and let them close their eyes at night with lifetime memories of love and happiness. That's my recommendation and I'm sticking to it. I thought that was a fantastic review. Well said. Now I want to hear from you. Out of these books that we covered here today, have you read any of them? What are your thoughts? Did you like them, not like them? Why? Share them with me down below. And keep in mind, the more that kids read, the better their reading skills will be, their writing skills will be. Spelling, that also comes with reading a lot of books. And what are the books that you're going to feed to them? And I'm not saying it all has to be classics. My kids read a lot of Dog Man and I Survived books and things like that as well. But when it comes to their academics, their education, there is a specific time carved out in the morning when we do school for them to read books like this and think about them and meditate upon them, because I'm telling you, Dog Man does not impact my kids the way Up from Slavery does. So it's a very instrumental tool, very important in our home education. I will have as many resources as I can for you linked down below that I think you'd be interested in relating in this topic. And we will continue this series in another video next month. All right, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Talk to you soon. Bye. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful. If you'd like to connect with me live, I invite you to join me over at my private membership site called The Schoolhouse. There you will have access to all of my courses, RC Course for Littles, Sustainable Homeschooling 101, and How to Run Your Home Like a Franchise. You will also have access to weekly private YouTube lives where I can answer all of your questions in real time or that you previously submitted, and you can always watch the replays. It's only $15 a month and you can cancel anytime, so I hope to see you there. Talk to you soon.